Today we're here to talk about how you can grow your business without doing any marketing. And I suspect that this is a really compelling title for most of the people listening today.
Yeah, I think a lot of people would desire to grow a business without spending a lot of money on marketing.
You know what? There are really two pieces there, right? The first piece is grow the business, because I think a lot of companies are really in the place where they're testing things, they're trying things, but they really haven't figured out that one thing that can reliably bring new customers to their business. And then the second piece is without doing any marketing, which is like, super definitely want to learn more about how you can accomplish that. Matt, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background and how you got here today, and a little bit about your book?
Oh, sure. Absolutely. Well, thanks again for having me, Dawn. It's been an exciting journey. In 2002, I started a part-time web design company. I took it full-time in 2005, and I ran that through the downturn and, of the economic downturn in 2008. And then ultimately that resulted in me meeting a whole bunch of people and trying to grow my business organically. Mm-hmm. And I met someone in a networking group that I sold my business to for 7 figures in 2018. And it was a web design company. And since then, I left the company the next day and I started traveling the country as a professional speaker, talking about the book I wrote in 2018, which is called More: Word of Mouth Referrals, Lifelong Customers, and Raving Fans. Uh-huh. And then in 2019, I did 35 gigs all over the country. Speaking on big stages, small stages too. I spoke at one event, there were 2 people in the audience. Yes. And then I spoke at one event where there was like 1,800. So yes, it was exciting. And then we had this thing called a pandemic hit, and it slowed down the professional speaking angle. And I had a lot of time off, a lot of time to think about what I wanted to do. And I wrote my newest book that came out in 2021 called The High Five Effect: How to Do Business with People Who Bring You Joy. Mm-hmm. And that, I think, is more of my life's work. While the referral component is inside of that, what I found ultimately was what most small business owners desired was when they left the corporate world and started their own company, they wanted 3 things: more money, more time, and more freedom. Mm-hmm. And they got none of those 3 things in the first 5 years because the business owned them. And yes. So when I interviewed all these people, this theme came across in the book of red flags, and the red flags were they took clients that they didn't want, and the sole bottom line reason was for the money. Mm-hmm. And so what we have to really look at as a business owner is, are we really attracting the right clients, prospects, customers? Are we doing it the right way? Are we charging enough? And are we building a sustainable business so that we have the intestinal fortitude inside of us to push away the bad red flag client?
You know what? It is not easy to do. I actually just went to the head of our customer team this week and I challenged her. I said, can you please make me a list of all our unprofitable customers? And she just smiled because she knows that they exist, but it's kind of hidden. We just keep serving them. And we haven't really done anything. And, at some point you need to put a line in the sand and say, how far are you going to go with this?
Yeah. And oftentimes people don't want to let a client go because they're so afraid they won't be able to replace them. But the space that they occupy in our brain,
yes,
and the fact that we lose sleep overnight and that we don't set our boundaries or break our own boundaries with them, often results in us having so much anxiety and concern. And usually what happens when I work with a client around the idea of referrals is that if I notice that they have this one client and I get them to fire that client, it frees up a bunch of time. It's almost always, as you said and defined it, an unprofitable client, because they're demanding more time, more service for a lesser fee almost all the time. And so when you remove those older unprofitable clients, you leave more space, and you also start to smile more, which is the whole idea of the book around this high five effect of doing business with people who bring you joy. Because can you truly high five people? Can you smile around people? And part of that philosophy isn't just your customers, Dawn. It's the people you hang out with. It's the people like your business partners, your friends, your business communities, your other entrepreneurs, your women's groups, your networking groups, do they bring you some sense of joy, or do you literally not like being around them? One of my friends told me one time, Dawn, there are two types of people in this world: those that bring joy to a room and those that don't. You either bring joy when you come into the room or you bring joy when you leave the room. And so why don't we surround ourselves with the people that bring it?
Yeah. Yeah, that's really fun. I love what you said earlier about the business owning them. I think that's a great way to think about it. Do we own our business, or does our business own us? And, to be fair, I think that there is a time in the beginning when the business is going to own you a little bit. And there is also a time in the beginning where you're taking customers who maybe aren't going to be profitable because you're trying to figure out where the lines are. But once you find those lines, then you need to start working within them. Would you say that, like the
100%.
process?
So if you're familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs, in the book, I compared Maslow's hierarchy of needs to this new hierarchy of needs, this client acquisition hierarchy of needs that I created in the book. And the first, a basis level of that is survival mode, right? So we have to pay our bills. And so that's why we take on these clients. But then there's security mode. And the way to get out of security mode is to generate a predictable amount of revenue recurring every single month. I don't care how you do that or what you define as recurring. It might be a recurring plan or program, but it might just be enough billables that's happening every single month that you can count on 10,000 a month being billed or 20,000 a month being billed. Now you have a baseline. Once you get to that level and for a fact that you've done that 3-4 months in a row, now you don't have to take the next client that comes your way. And the biggest thing that I try to really get people to understand is to do the math. How many clients do you really need? Because we think we need hundreds, if not thousands. And oftentimes in small businesses, micro businesses, solopreneur businesses, we need 5 or 10 or 20. It depends on what our model is and what we charge. But like in my case, as a referral consultant, I want no more than 5 one-on-one clients. So think about what it takes to get that. It is way different than what it takes to get 50. And I think that people just often don't stop and do the math, and they get all squirrely about trying to make a sale. And so if we can get to that security mode with whatever that is, then we can start to coast and relax a little bit and start to enjoy the business and what it provides for us and our family. And you also have to define, in the book, I talk about defining joy. And for some people, it can be money, I guess. But for me, it's not that. It's freedom from the calendar. And I define my freedom as doing what I want, when I want, where I want, and how I want. I've been on 4 cruises this year, Dawn. And I have another one booked in the week.
That is not my definition of joy, but
exactly. And
exactly. You know what? Everybody has their own.
Mine isn't necessarily sitting on the beach like a lot of people's is. I actually don't enjoy that as much because I get really bored. So my big hobby is side-by-side ATVing. I love to do that all around this great country, all up in New England. I've been to Idaho. I've been to the Grand Canyon on the North Rim back in September of 2021. So I love to do that. If I could take the time to do that, I like to travel and see new places. That's my thing. And money isn't important to me anymore. I grew up in poverty. And so as long as I don't go backwards, I'm good. And so my mindset is focused on that. It's not focused on the next sale. It's focused on my happiness because my web design business did own me. And that was not fun. Now, I'm not at all recommending that you don't work Fridays like I don't work Fridays. You can work 7 days a week, 18 hours a day, as long as it's a choice. When it's a choice, you're choosing to do the work. When it's not a choice, the business owns you and it's dictating that you have to do the work. And that is the problem with having a joyful business. When you have a joyful business, you're much happier. You wake up more excited. You smile a lot more.
It doesn't feel like work.
That's right. It doesn't feel like work. And people want to do business with you. But if you're not joyful and you fall into depressive states, you're angry at customers, that stuff shows up on the phone, it shows up in emails, and it shows up in person.
Yeah.
And that's not the type of business that people want to do business with.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing from you is start by establishing what you personally need to get out of the business.
Yeah.
What is the number, if it's a financial outcome, which it usually is some financial outcome at least. What is it that you want to be running a business for a long time? At what point do you want to exit or sell your business? Is that something that's, part of your plan, part of your future? Are there other things you want to do? So sell your business and then do something else. Think about what that goal is, and then reverse engineer, how do I get there, and how do I move beyond the survival state that you might be in right now to get to a place of security, so you can get out of, when you're in survival state, you're operating from the reptilian brain. You're not making very strategic decisions because you're just doing what you need to do to get by. Once you get to that next level, that security stage, that's when you start to make more strategic decisions, and you can actually really focus on achieving that outcome.
Yeah. And in all fairness, like, I didn't do this overnight, right? I had a business that I had for 16 years, and the first 10 years of that was grind mode.
Yeah.
And what I realized was I have so much I can share with other people about how not to do this, because I did it.
Yeah.
And then in the last 6 years, I started figuring it all out. And I started to put more boundaries in place and to honor them a lot more. And so I spend more time with people I like and who bring positivity into my life than I do those that give me business.
Yeah.
Now, funny enough is that when you do that, those people start to give you business.
Yes.
Because they like you. And it's the know, like, trust, and care about factor I talked about in my first book, which is if you surround yourself with people that you know, like, trust, and care about, even if you're not doing business together, i.e., you don't buy their product or service, they don't buy yours, they start to tell people about you because they truly care about the success of your business. And that is a core component in growing without marketing.
Yes.
You can send flyers and do digital ads and all this stuff, and all you're going to get is that end user. It's top of mind awareness.
Yep.
But
I'm going to pick a bone here, Matt. I'm going to
Sure.
pick a bone here. So the topic today is how to grow your business without marketing. And I would fundamentally say that that is impossible, because marketing is not just those tactical marketing communication things we think about. It's not about flyers. It's not about Facebook ads or whatever it is. Though that's tactical marketing, and that's one piece of it. But marketing is, sort of go back to the 5 Ps. Who are you going to sell to? What are you going to sell them? What are you going to price it at? Where are you going to position it? Like, where are you going to sell it? All of those things are marketing. And that's the more strategic stuff. So when we're talking about this today, what we're talking about is focus on the strategic marketing stuff, as opposed to just thinking of marketing as these tactical things like making a flyer or various other marketing communications.
Because those rarely work too. They'll work in the short term, depending on how they were done and the tactic used and how effective it was. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you I haven't done those things or that I don't do those things. I still run Facebook ads.
Yes.
It's very strategic though. My Facebook ads are not to buy something. My Facebook ads are solely to put my face in front of people so they watch my videos on YouTube. That's it. And so I'm building, it's more branding. But where I spend my time and actually my money, which you could argue is marketing, is on coffee, lunches, and these one-to-ones and networking events of some kind, networking groups of some sort, which you could argue is marketing, but it's relationship building. I spend all of my time there. And I don't care if I ever get a referral. I go in with the idea that I want to gain a friend, that I want to gain a colleague, that I can learn something from them, that I could provide some value to them and perhaps even refer them.
Yep.
I learned this philosophy from Keith Ferrazzi's book, Never Eat Alone. And what I learned was to give without the expectation of getting anything in return. And when we can start to shift into that mindset, everything starts to change.
Mhm. Mhm.
That's a game changer when we think about it like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And for most businesses, you don't need to achieve enormous scale in terms of number of customers. So you don't really need to crack a marketing channel. At Jottful, for example, the company that I own, we rely heavily on advertising on YouTube, for example. So video advertising on YouTube is a really important channel for us because we couldn't possibly scale to the thousands of customers, we need with coffees locally, right?
Yeah.
But there are plenty of businesses for whom building out locally, specifically through that relationship building, is going to be the best path to growth.
Yeah. And the people I work with are service-based businesses where a relationship needs to exist in order for a referral to come in and oftentimes a purchase to happen.
Yes.
So, I mean, there are, we can walk into a car dealership today and buy a car. Would the car salesperson be more effective if they were out involved in networking and building relationships and trustworthy relationships, and they'd have more foot traffic per month than any other car sales rep in that showroom? Sure. But do they need that? No, because they have enough foot traffic. If the dealership does enough marketing, tactical marketing, it'll bring in the foot traffic for them. So there's a big difference. Financial advisors and mortgage professionals, real estate professionals, these type of folks, it works really, really well with even the web designers because the experience that I had in the industry that I was in. So.
Okay, so talk about some of your tips and tricks for relationship building.
Sure. So one of the things that people love all the time as far as tips and tricks go is this thing that I had done when I had my web agency, and I put it in my first book. So first of all, the first book is 45 different tips and tricks on how to stay in touch and build relationships. And one of those is Frosty Fridays.
Oh, okay.
Where you go to Wendy's, you get the mini Frosties, get the assorted ones, vanilla, chocolate, whatever they got. Get 10 of them. If your client has 10 people in the office, you walk in with a tray of Frosties on a Friday. You leave them with the front desk and you say, these are from us. I hope you guys have a great day. And you turn around and walk out. You're not there to sell them. Yeah. And just let them enjoy it. And it works. They email you, they call you. I had at one point done it enough where somebody sent me a text message on a Friday morning and said, today's Friday. Are you bringing Frosties? So there's things like that. Here's another example.
And your customers, by the way, your customers don't have to be local for you to pull this off. You can also send them stuff in the mail.
Oh, have I got some stories for you about that? I'll come back to that one. Books. One, Never Eat Alone. I think I have 36 copies of his book right now. 36 copies of his book. So you can take a book that you believe in that's not your own book and mail it to one of your contacts and say, I thought of you with this book. I thought this was a great book. I hope you enjoy it. You just inscribe it on the front. Now, here's a couple hacks for that. You don't have to buy it new on Amazon. You can if you want to support the author. Or you can go to eBay. And a lot of people, you can buy these books used that are not written in and things like that for like $3 to $4 a piece. And so you can buy 5 or 10 of them there, put them on your bookshelf, and then, write them out to people. And then when you mail the card, it should always go, like, you should never do a gift from Amazon because it goes with the gift receipt. You need a handwritten card or note that you write yourself and resend in your own packaging. That makes the big difference. Is the handwritten note versus the gift receipt from Amazon. And so there's 4 pillars to getting more referrals. And just to be perfectly honest with you, in building better relationships. And it's over delivery, surprise, listening, and non-self-serving acts. And those 4 pillars are what I call the care package and how you actually care about other people and show up. So to mail stuff, first of all, I've been the recipient of many things because I tell people all the time, especially on podcasts, that I love bacon. I say my address is on my website. People go find it. Next thing you know, I get bacon in the mail. It's awesome. I love it. I gave a referral to somebody and they sent me a crate of bacon stuff. It was like bacon jam and bacon spice, and then a pound of bacon, bacon jerky, all kinds of stuff. So that was awesome. And then I, years ago, had a podcast, and a guy came on the podcast, and he was from the founder of 9 Round Fitness franchise, which is like Curves for Women, but it's boxing. His name was Shannon the Cannon Hudson, and he was in Greenville, South Carolina. And at the time, we were recording the podcast on Skype. This is years ago. There was no video. He couldn't see me. It's audio. And he said, yeah, you know, in the fitness business and the fitness business and the this business and the fitness business. And he said fitness about 7 times in the first 5 minutes. And finally I said, Shannon, listen, you can't see me, but I'm a big dude. Fitness doesn't really fit in my vocabulary. Well, actually it does. When I'm fitness, hold pizza in my mouth. We had a good laugh. Podcast comes out. I call up Domino's in Greenville, South Carolina. I order a pizza delivered to his office, and they write inside the box, thanks for coming on the podcast. I hope you fitness pizza in your mouth. And that was it. Domino's sent me a picture of it. I never heard from Shannon as to whether he got it or not. It wasn't about the referrals. It was a thank you thing. It was memorable. It was what I refer to as a callback. If you can call back to a previous conversation, then that person and individual knows that you were listening to them, and that matters.
Yeah.
And so now I tell that story on the keynote stage all around the country, and I always get a good laugh. Sometimes people try and send me pizza too, which I never complain about. So these are little things. Email, you know, send in an email of a news story that you saw to your contact and say, hey, I saw this news story. I thought about you. One of the great tips that I have in the book is HARO, H-A-R-O. It's help a reporter out. It's a free email that you get 3 times a day, and it's reporters looking for sources of information. Well, when you see something in there about, I don't know, a chiropractor, and you happen to know a chiropractor, and you forward the email to them and say, hey, number 24 is perfect for you if you want to get some free press. I thought of you this way.
You know, we've done that. So we've received emails from the state letting us know, for example, about various, you know, COVID grants that are available that don't apply to us, but that could be a good fit for some of our customers. So we pull a list of all our customers who happen to be in the same state as us, and we send it out and say, hey, thought of you, thought this might be something you could apply for, you know, and they're so grateful because oftentimes they don't know about these kinds of things.
And even if they never do it, they know you were thinking of them.
Yeah, looking out for them.
And that's one of the big components with building these relationships long term, is if you truly are, as you say, Dawn, looking out for them, then they know that. One of the best lines you can use, because I get often asked, what do I put in the email? It's as simple as was thinking of you. That's it. And that's what people love to hear. Start it with their first name, though, because that's the number one pleasing sound in the English language, is the sound of one's own first name. So always try and address it. When you handwrite a card, don't do, you know, email works, but cards are better. We got to go from the inbox to the mailbox, because when we go through that mail, that's the first thing we look for, is that oblong envelope that's not a bill. You know, it's not snail mail. It's not spam mail coming as a direct mail piece. We know that's something unique to us. And if we can send more handwritten cards, we'll build better relationships, we'll have better strategies, we'll build a more sustainable business with great people that make us smile all the time, that we can literally high five in any office building anywhere in this country. And that allows us to sleep better at night, have a more profitable business, have more money, more time, and more freedom.
Yep, I'm going to play devil's advocate here, Matt. It's slow. It can take a while to build up business through referrals. It's not predictable. I mean, we get a lot of referrals, but we can't count on it in any particular month the way we can on leads that we get in through various marketing campaigns. So how do businesses that are in that insecure stage, in that survival stage, can you really just rely on these kinds of referrals?
I don't like the term rely at all, because it's risky if you're going to rely on it. There's a couple things I tell people all the time. First of all, you have to do what you have to do for the first 2 years that you are working in a job or owning a business. And those are the things you have to do between 9 and 5. And after hours and on weekends, you do what I tell you to do for for the same time frame, 2 years. And after 2 years, you'll never have to do the other stuff ever again, because it does take time. 100%. It takes time. It takes patience, because trust isn't built overnight.
Right.
And that's where the stuff comes from. Now, you can jumpstart it. Here's a quick hack to do it. You get 20 cards. You pick 20 people. You mail out the cards to those 20 people. So each of the 20 people get one card. That's in month, of May, let's say. In the month of June, the same 20 people get another card. And in the month of July, the same 20 people get another card. A handwritten card 3 times to the same person over the course of 3 months. This is done to 20 people. I guarantee you get a referral. I can't guarantee you'll sell it, and I can't guarantee how much it's worth. But I can guarantee you'll get it. And the reason why you will is because you are top of mind to them now. You're showing up more than anybody else. I like to say it like this. How do you outrun a bear, Dawn?
You zigzag?
You don't. You outrun your friend.
Okay.
Which is why everybody wants to take me camping. But in business, you outrun the competition. And the way you do that is by touching base more often than the next person in line. That's how you remain top of mind. That's the whole point of marketing and tactical stuff, is to remain top of mind awareness.
By the way, not just more often, but what you're describing is also you're zigging when others are zagging, right? Other people are sending them emails, probably the exact same prospects. They're sending them emails. You're sending them personal notes.
And the other thing is, I spend
out
all my time, and I tell my clients to spend all their time on their referral partners, not their clients. We often believe that referrals come from clients, but that's not true. We only think that because we got one good referral from a client. Most referrals come from referral partners who are in a position to refer on a regular basis. And so those are the people you want to build relationships with. Those are the people you want to go to lunch with. So the web designer and the IT person, the realtor and the mortgage person, the realtor and the handyman and the electrician. There's a lot of synergies between industries, what we often call sphere. And so if we can build that sphere around, and that relationship starts to grow, because when you think about it, you buy a house, okay, yeah, you're all happy, and you might tell somebody about your house, and then they might actually ask you who your realtor was. Okay, great. Now you're talking about the realtor. Other than that, the last thing you're posting on Facebook is, my realtor was amazing, I got this great new house. No, you're talking about your new house. And so the conversation never comes up. And the average home buyer buys a home every 7 years. So you're going to be a returning customer.
You get that realtor, and the realtor recommends who you should use as your lawyer. The realtor recommends who you should use as your title company.
That's right.
That realtor.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, a great.
And so there are people who are in a position to control or influence certain situations. One of the examples I talk about all the time is the commercial cleaning company and the copier and office supply company, or the coffee supply company that supplies to commercial businesses. If they're talking to each other and networking with each other and building relationships with each other, then when the person goes in to clean or get the cleaning contract, they're able to have a conversation around all the other services that are happening in the business and whether or not their new customer is happy with those services. One of the ways you can get more referrals and build a more sustainable referral base is to get your partners to add a question to their intake form. We all have intake forms. We all ask questions of clients that come to us for service-based businesses. And it might be like, oh, well, tell me, if you're a web designer, it's like, okay, who does your email? Who does your IT? Well, if they say no one, then you say, well, I have someone. Do you want to meet them? If they say this person does, ABC IT, you go, great, I haven't heard of them. I'll give them a call. And now you have another referral partner.
Yep.
And so you just have to think of this more strategically. I think most people don't think of it like this. They just think about chasing the next client because that's who pays the bills. But they don't realize that the water faucet putting all the money into the business is the actual referral sources who are sending these people time and time again.
Yes.
And
yes to all of that.
That's really how, like, when you're talking about how it takes so long, that's how you can speed that up, because the one way I was able to do it in my last business was I had 36, actually, I think it was 36 referral partners who were referring on average about once a year or so. Sometimes they refer 2-3 times a year, and somebody wouldn't refer that year. But on average, it was about once a year. But my company only did 32 websites a year.
Right.
So they were referring us, and we like it was like the bulk of all of our business. I think 90% of all of our business came from referral.
Yeah.
From the partners. The other 10% was coming from some clients. But again, you know, the only reason, at least in that industry, the only reason people were switching was because they couldn't get a hold of their current web person, which is usually the number one reason in any business. The accounting business, I can't get a hold of my bookkeeper or my accountant or tax person, whatever it is. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's a wrap. If you enjoyed this episode of Marketing Made Easy, please subscribe to Jottful's YouTube channel. That's JOTTFUL. That way, you'll never miss an episode. We'll meet you on the next one.